In the early days of the Nine Realms, long before the shadow of Ragnarok loomed over Asgard, a beast was born under a sky of uneasy stars. His name was Fenrir, the great wolf of prophecy, son of Loki the shapeshifter and trickster god, and Angraboda, a giantess from Jotunheim. From the moment he opened his eyes, the gods knew something in Fenrir that disturbed them. His coat shimmered like the void between stars. His fangs gleamed with unnatural sharpness. And more unsettling than anything else was the look in his eyes. Not mindless savagery, but a growing, terrible intelligence. Though he was but a cub, the Aesir knew this wolf would one day grow beyond their control. Odin, the All-Father, had seen visions of the end, of Fenrir breaking free from his chains, devouring gods and bringing ruin to the realms. Fearing this, the gods took the wolf into their care, hoping to raise him under watchful eyes. They told themselves what they were doing was right. They told Fenrir that they only sought to protect him. But mistrust fermented in Asgard, and the wolf sensed it. Only Tyr, the god of law and order, treated Fenrir with any true fairness. He fed the wolf, trained him, spoke to him as an equal. Fenrir grew to respect him, perhaps even love him in his own wild way. But not even Tyr could stop what would come next. As Fenrir grew, so did the god's anxiety. The wolf's size became impossible to ignore. He towered over trees, cast shadows over hills, and his growl caused even seasoned warriors to flinch. The gods began to whisper, and then to plot. They decided to bind him. They approached him with tests, pretending it was all in sport. First, they forged a chain called Lighting Gear, thick and heavy as iron mountains. Fenrir broke it with a flick of his neck. And then came Dromir. Twice as strong, he shattered it like a twig. The gods laughed nervously, masking their unease. Realizing that no ordinary chain would do, Odin sent messages to the dwarves of Staffelheim, master smiths of metal and magic. In secret, they crafted a ribbon called Gleipnir, forged from 6 impossible things: the sound of a cat's footfall, a woman's beard, the roots of a mountain, a bear's sinew, the breath of a fish, and the spittle of a bird. It was soft as silk, but stronger than any steel. When the gods returned to Fenrir with Gleipnir, his eyes narrowed. "You ask me to trust you," he growled, "but your hearts beat with fear." He agreed to the test, but only if one god would place their hand in his mouth as a gesture of good faith. Only Tyr stepped forward. Fenrir lay still as the ribbon was wrapped around him. He waited and tested it, and then he thrashed. The chain held. He howled, enraged at the betrayal, and closed his jaw around Tyr's wrist, severing the god's hand. Tyr did not scream. He looked into Fenrir's eyes and whispered, "I'm sorry." Bound and betrayed, Fenrir roared, his fury to the skies. The gods drove a sword into his jaws, holding them open so he could not bite. His howls became muffled groans, blood mixed with drool. They chained him to a rock on the island of Lingrivi, far from all the realms, and left him there, forgotten, and yet not gone. There he lay, his eyes burning with hate, body growing colder with each passing age. But prophecy was not undone. It only waited. As seasons came and went, like the breaths of sleeping gods, the world changed. Humans grew, kingdoms rose and fell, and still Fenrir lay bound on the island of Lingravie, staring at the sunless sky, his hatred ripening like rot. The sword jammed between his jaws had rusted, but it held. His mouth remained pried open, a cruel symbol of silence forced upon him. His chains, crafted from the impossible, never loosened. But time is the great decayer, even of magic. The world was marching towards its end, toward Ragnarok. The seers spoke of it. The stars flickered like omens. Even Omen, the All-Father and architect of Fenrir's imprisonment, felt unease settle deep within the roots of Yggdrasil. The balance of fate could not be held forever. And when the first rooster crowed in Helheim, the bindings trembled. The sky cracked, the seas boiled, and the earth split. And with that rift, Gleipnir finally gave way. Fenrir rose, bigger now than the gods had ever imagined. His shoulders scraped the clouds, his eyes were twin comets streaking with fire and hunger. His mouth, freed and open in a yawn so wide that it split the heavens. With one jaw scraping the sky and the other clawing at the ground, he was no longer just a beast. He was vengeance, made flesh. The gods rallied for the final battle. Odin donned his helmet, took up his spear Gungnir, and rode Sleipnir into the fray. The battlefield was Vigrid, a plain where destiny would either crumble or be fulfilled. Fenrir stormed the battlefield like a living avalanche, devouring the light and tearing through the ranks of the divine and monstrous alike. But his eyes sought one figure, and one only. Odin. The father of the gods met the wolf head-on. He did not flinch. He struck with spear and magic and the fury of 1,000 years' foresight. But fate could not be fooled, and prophecy does not flinch either. With a leap, Fenrir engulfed Odin in its jaws. The All-Father was gone. A silence fell over the field, and then a new voice roared. Vira, Odin's silent son, stepped forward. The god of vengeance, born for this singular purpose, wore a shoe, stitched from every discarded scrap of leather from across the realm. He wedged it between Fenrir's lower jaw, gripped the upper with both hands, and with a strength born not of muscle, but of prophecy, he tore the wolf's mouth apart. Fenrir howled his final cry that echoed across the realms. The sky bled, the world shook, and the wolf collapsed, dead beside the god he had swallowed. When Ragnarok passed, the realms were ash and silence. Gods dead, monsters fallen, seas swallowing cities, but from the wreckage a new world would rise. And the name Fenrir would be spoken in awe and in dread. To some, he was a monster, a beast that killed many gods. To others, he was a symbol of fear given form, vengeance long denied, of fate written in stone. And yet, beneath the fury, in some lost telling whispers, on the cold northern winds, Fenrir was also a child born to chaos, feared from birth, and broken from betrayal. Not all monsters are born. Some can be made.